Do you want to hear something controversial about UFC 330? I'm okay with Ian Gary's hugging, or the lack of it. I've just rewatched the fight, and reading the report on the internet, I didn't know if I'd miswatched it the first time. Did Ian Gary write a love letter to Islam Makhachev at the start of each round? Were they hugging like teenagers at a prom? No, far from it. I think Ian was showing respect. There was fist bumps, and yeah, before the final round, there was a moment there. But look, Islam seemed into it as Ian was. There was consent. So this whole furore about Ian being too respectful and too nice, I've got to be completely honest with you. I don't get it. And also, even if he was, let's break this down. It's Ian's method. Everyone's got their own thing when it comes to fighting. How they get themselves fired up, how they approach a fight, how they want to strategize. Ian is, as he's confessed himself, mentally bulletproof. And you saw that in the fight. He was in very, very tricky positions. And he was calm as you like. Throughout the fight, he only seemed to get mentally stronger, but particularly after that round sort of 3 and 4. He seemed reinvigorated, particularly as Islam, his energy started to drain off. You could see Ian taking something from that. Ian is powered by his mental state. He has the absolute respect for Islam, and you can see that throughout. And I think the longer the fight went, and the more Ian got into it, and the more Ian started to have some success, the affection for Islam, if that sounds weird, I get it, but the more he was, I think he was happy with how he was doing. He was so happy to be in there with the pound for pound great in Islam Makhachev. And for him to be in there and doing well at points must have been incredible for him. So for him to draw on that energy, his family's cage side, his coaches he has a respect for, all of those things you could see were filling him with energy. So look, if that's his method, if that's how he approaches fights, if that's how he is able to perform the best, does it matter? I would much rather see a fighter go into a round and fist bump and, I don't know, if they want to have a hug, cool, whatever, get on with it, than a boring grapple fest on the ground fight. I'd rather see these guys approach this contest however they need to make this thing work. We could go the other way, and there was fighters who have no respect for their opponent, and it gets out of hand sometimes, and there's no sportsmanship whatsoever. I think Ian, did he go too far in his sportsmanship? No. Would I personally like to see a bit more trash talking, a bit more killer instinct? Yeah, sure. I love a fight game. I love seeing people tear the hell out of each other. But conversely, does that mean I'm bothered by Ian Gary and his approach to this fight? No, not at all. And I'm just going through all the comments this week online about Ian in that fight. I've got to be honest with you. I don't get it. I do not get it. I think he wasn't the better man that night. I think there were opportunities where he could have excelled. I think that 5th round, certainly he was the fresher fighter. He was motivated, and he didn't deliver in that 5th round, which could have been a difference maker. I think Islam looked human for potentially the first time. Coming out of that fight, if you look at both men's faces, Islam was the one who looked like he'd been in a fight. Islam won, no doubt about it. But Ian Gary, at 28 years old, I think he showed some real assets. He's a great fighter. He has got cardio for days. He's strategic, but it is his mentality, I think, is ultimately going to make him one of the best fighters in the UFC. Dana White talked about there was a potential for the upset or for Ian to win. There's a lot on the line. The undefeated streak of Islam Makhachev, him, again competing at welterweight after competing at lightweight. There's a lot of things coming into this that did have the pressure on Islam, and the upset was there for Ian. So Dana White says. I'm also reading into that, thinking, did Dana kind of want Ian to win? Is Ian the more marketable character? Would Ian be a better flag bearer for the UFC? We can discuss that. We can dive deep into that. And I think there's probably a lot of arguments for Ian Garry to be the better flag bearer, the better champion for the UFC commercially. But I do think this fight week changed a lot of things for Islam Makhachev. Previously, we've talked about lack of personality from Islam, etc. But I do think having a foe like Ian Garry that is so divisive and it allowing Islam to come out of his shell a bit. I feel like I'm a bigger fan of Islam personally after this fight than any of his previous fights. I think we start to see some of his character, which I really liked. And I think if he can continue that, he could become something very special. Already inside the cage, he's very special. But we talked about the impact of Khabib. If you saw the verdict on TNT, we dove really deep into that. Can Islam ever surpass Khabib? And what it really came down to was a moment in time that Khabib rose to prominence, and his feud with McGregor and the doors he opened for a lot of other fighters. Islam needs something to hang his hat on. Can he ever surpass the achievements and the breakthrough that Khabib had? No, probably not, because there can only be one first, and that was Khabib in terms of opening the doors for others. But I think there are routes for Islam to make his own mark and become a comparable star. But we need to see more of his personality, and I think we do need some big rivalries. And at this point in his career, does he have time to get those on his resume? We will see. But back to Ian at 28 years old, man, I'm excited for what's to come next. I think we need to cycle through some more challenges in that welterweight division. But man, if 18 months' time, Ian Garry's back in the mix, I'd watch that. And I think, look, say what you like about his personality, I think in the camps, Ian's doing the right stuff. He's a great fighter. And I think he's going to be sticking around the top of the rankings for a long time to come yet. So this will not be the only dance that Garry gets at the title. And as far as his hugging concerns, if that's what he needs to perform his best, if that's what he needs to energize and motivate himself, okay, go for it. Go for it. I think it's a better vice to have in terms of what some people are seeing as a negative aspect of his fighting than a lot of other fighters currently carry with them. That's my take. Let me know what you think. Was Ian Garry's respect too much? Was he too affectionate in the fight? Or are we okay with it? Was it just two of the world's best fighters going at it?